Hi everyone, let's talk about Thundercat. At one point, a member of the crossover thrash and hardcore punk band Suicidal Tendencies, splintering off from that band and making his own solo efforts, Thundercat has been making music on his own since the early part of the 2010s. Debuting with the Golden Age of the Apocalypse, on that album he showcased how funky, groovy, and just chill he could be. And then he followed it up with probably not so much his best album, Apocalypse. But don't get me wrong, there are some really great songs on that record. However, the production on that LP was just not up to snuff compared to the rest of his LPs. Drunk was more of an ambitious turn to a longer album length, and it turned out to be a little bit of a cumbersome listen. And now, 3 years later, we have his follow-up, It Is What It Is. I wasn't really going into this record with all high hopes because I didn't really care for most of the singles. Black QUALLS I felt like had a weird vocal mixing with Steve Arrington. I know he is an older fella, but vocally he's just not as strong as Childish Gambino or Steve Lacy or Thundercat. So I'm not blaming him, rather I'm blaming those who thought he would be a good complement to this song. And now that I listen to the song in the context of this record, it honestly truly is probably my least favorite song. One, I think the production on this track in particular is a lot more groovy and a lot more funky compared to the rest of the songs. And it just does not fit into the album stylistically. And it's not a bad track. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I hate this song because I find it enjoyable, but I find it the weakest link. DRAGONBALL DURAG really kind of hit me on first listen as like a weird little song. The more I listen to it though, the more I just grow to love it. Imagine Thundercat if he had a lot of cat hair on him, wearing his DRAGONBALL DURAG, and he's just trying to impress you, trying to smash. It does not come off sexy or sensual at all, but I'll give him points for trying. It is one of a few funny moments on this record. Other songs like Overseas featuring Zach Fox. What I really like about this song in particular is the Zach Fox feature. Sure, it could have been done better. I think he could have been incorporated more into the album. However, he's a funny man. I don't really know how you're going to incorporate him that much. But for whatever it is, I find this feature to be pretty funny. Detailing Thundercat getting some sloppy head in first class. The song Fair Chance features LOUIE and Ty Dolla $ign, and on first listen through this record, I did not care for it all that much, mainly because LOUIE features a little weird, but the more I listen to the song, the more I grow to love it. I love how Ty Dolla $ign's vocals are layered, and LOUIE delivers a very interesting contrast between Thundercat and Ty Dolla $ign. And once I really got to appreciate this song, and once I really got to understand it, it grew to be one of my favorites across this entire album. What I really like about this record is Thundercat himself. His bass playing is very good amongst this record. I do wish I heard it a little more though, but what really makes me love this record a lot is just his falsetto, especially in songs like Interstellar Love or Fair Chance or King of the Hill, Unrequited Love, I Love Louie, and there are a few other examples too. I think his falsetto really complements the instrumental that he's on. For the most part, you have these very warm synth pads that are playing throughout the entire track. You get a very intricate beat that's done by Flying Lotus, of course. And on some other tracks, you get horns that complement the song, like on Interstellar Love, where the song just builds and builds and builds. Once it reaches the climax, it's this jazzy, euphoric heaven. I think Unrequited Love showcases Thundercat's bass playing the best on this album. You have some bass solos that are worked into the beginning and the end of the track. It Is What It Is does also show how much of a virtuoso Thundercat is. Being the longest song on this record, I actually think it's a really fitting closer for the album too. It's a very somber way to end the album off. I think there are some moments, like on the track House Sway, where the production can be a little too muddy. Also, that song in particular kind of feels like it could have been on Flying Lotus's last album. I also think there were a few 1-minute cuts like How I Feel and Funny Thing that could have been panned out a lot better. They could have easily stretched over the 2-minute mark, maybe even the 3-minute mark. Because these songs have interesting ideas to them, but they're not fully realized. However, with those criticisms aside, I honestly thoroughly enjoyed this album. I could probably also say that this is Thundercat's best record yet, but take that with a grain of salt because I've only listened to his other projects just a little more than one time. But I find this album to be probably his most consistent effort to date. I find it to be his grooviest, his jazziest, his most free-flowing album. I think this album does a great job balancing the sensual side of Thundercat with his playful side. And for the most part, I think the production is good on this record. I'm not finding a moment where I'm thinking, yeah, the song's alright, but the production bogs it down. I think for the most part, the reverb on a lot of these instrumentals could have been toned down a little bit. On the vocals, no, I like them on the vocals. But yeah, the instrumentals don't need to be so cavernous. But yeah, other than that, this is a really solid album. I love how groovy, funky, jazzy, and enjoyable this record is too. I wouldn't mind listening to it for another time. And I would be surprised if I did not come back to enjoy this record for like a 6th or 7th or 8th time. But other than that, check this out if you're curious. At least for me, I think it's one of his best projects yet. It's a very solid A-. However, I am curious to know what are your thoughts and opinions on this album down below. Let me know what albums you want me to review next, and that is it. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you want. Let me know how I can improve future videos down below. And remember, this is only my opinion, because music is subjective.